everyone, it's Lisa. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm bringing you another 10 cards, 1 kit video using the Stamps of Life May 2021 card kit. Before I get started with this video, if you like card making tutorials and want to see more, please consider subscribing to my channel and clicking that subscribe button. And as you're watching, if you like this video, please consider giving this video a thumbs up, as it does let me know that you like this video. So this card kit is the May 2021 card kit, which is called the Totally Rad Collection. It corresponds to the BBQ2Stamp and more BBQ2Stamp stamp sets from the Stamps of Life. So you'll see as I go through the paper pad that it's barbecue themed. I'm super excited about this card kit. Number one, because it includes a 6x9 paper pad, which is perfect for larger cards, such as slim lines and 5x7 cards. And number two, because you can make a lot of great masculine cards with this kit. But don't get me wrong, because you can also make fun summer cards for anyone who just loves to grill and to be outdoors. You can also incorporate this fun barbecue grill with the new 4th of July set that the Stamps of Life just released. So there are a total of 24 sheets in this paper pad, and you get 2 sheets of each pattern. You also get this idea card, which shows you some ideas for inspiration for using your kit. You also get this storage envelope, which you can use to either store your kit contents or cardstock sheets or even your dies. And then you get your cardstock, which is your solid cardstock that coordinates with the colors in the paper pad. Before I show you the cardstock colors, you do get a pack of envelopes. So the colors for this month include chocolate, which is this dark brown, and I will say that this chocolate piece of cardstock is a substitute for the green apple. You also get sunshine, kiwi, cranberry, midnight, twig, ginger snap, pool, and 4 sheets of the powdered sugar. So there is your color palette for this month's kit. You also get a word die that says Totally Rad. You get this stamp set that says OMG, it's your birthday, oops, yikes, whoa, what a day, and I forgot. So you can say OMG, I forgot it's your birthday, or oops, I forgot it's your birthday, or yikes, it's your birthday. So there's several different combinations that you can use for that stamp set. You also get these epoxy dots in the same color palette as the cardstock. You will also get these chipboard pieces, which include 2 barbecue grills and some stars. There's also these puffy stickers, hey dude, what's up, happy Father's Day, cool guy, awesome, and barbecue. You also get this BBQ word die, as well as 2 ribbon, 1 in pool and 1 in twig. So once again, here are all the contents of the May 2021 card kit, and I will link down below the website. If you're interested in joining the club, you can head on over to the Stamps of Life website and check that out. So I always like to start out by taking these 2 sheets that are always in the paper pad. These are sheets that you can die cut these pieces out of the pattern paper pad using your shadow dies that are part of the club set. Now, if you're in the Die Hard Club, which means that you get the matching stamps and the dies, you have the dies to cut these out. If you don't have the dies, you can always use your scissors and just fussy cut these images out of these pieces of pattern paper. And what I love about all of these images is that they make for such quick and easy cards, because once you have them all die cut or fussy cut out of the paper, you can use these on your cards and you don't have to worry about coloring. So here are all of my images cut out, and in total there are 54 die cut pieces. So you get the tongs, you get the spatula, you get the barbecue grills, the steak, the turkey legs, the hot dog, and the pieces of grass. So my first card is going to be a slimline card, and I am going to start out by using this piece of pattern paper. It has these little grass design on them. I did die cut it from a border die. It's a little hillside border die, and I'm just inking up the edges. I'm also going to be bringing in these 2 die cut pieces of grass. I just inked up those edges with the kiwi ink as well, and I'm going to attach it to the bottom of this star paper. The star paper measures 3 1/4 inches by 8 1/4 inches. So I just attach that there, and I will trim off the excess. Now I do want to remind you all that if you want to replicate any of these cards, I have all of the card measurements in my blog post, and the coordinating blog post will be in the description box of this YouTube video. So I'm going to adhere that layer to a piece of pool cardstock, and the pool cardstock measures 3 3/8 by 8 3/8. And I have a piece of the chocolate cardstock that measures 3.5 by 8.5. I'm going to adhere that to a slimline card base. Now, if you have the slimline card die set from the Stamps of Life, that would be the easiest to cut out your slimline card base. But if you don't have the slimline card die set, you can always take an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, cut it to 8.5 by 7, and score it at 3.5 inches, and you'll have your card base. So I attach the star layer to the card base. And notice that I did die cut out the Totally Rad word die. And you'll see how it die cuts. I did put double-sided adhesive on the back of this pool paper before running it through my die cut machine. And I also die cut the background rectangle out of the cranberry. So you can see that the word Totally Rad, you can actually see the cranberry through those letters. If you wanted to die cut a different color to piece back in there, you can totally do that, but I chose to leave it as with the cranberry background. Now I do want you to notice, if you look closely at the letter O in Totally Rad, you'll see that the middle part of that word, of that letter O, is a little bit crooked. I do go back in and I fix that. I don't know if I do that on camera, but just pay attention to that. If you do have the double-sided adhesive on the back of that die, when adhering it, to make sure that you place your O correctly on the word Totally Rad. So you'll see that I did trim off a little bit of the border of the steak just because I didn't want so much white showing. So I'm laying that steak on the grill and put the spatula underneath it. I also die cut the word dad using the solid alphabet die set. So I thought it was super cute, Totally Rad Dad. It kind of rhymes. So I wanted to use the letters DAD for dad in a larger, just to make it stand out. Now you can totally use this as a Father's Day card. You could also use this for just a birthday card or any type of card for a dad. And then again, you don't even have to use the letters dad. You can leave those off and just make it whatever type of theme you wanted to make it. But I thought since Father's Day is right around the corner, this would be a perfect dad card. So I kind of put the letters dad. I don't put them straight, kind of put them a little bit curved there at the top of the card right above the grill. And I was debating on whether I wanted to put Totally Rad straight or curved. I decided to go with it straight. So then for the inside of the card, I am going to stamp out a sentiment, and the sentiment in the chocolate ink is the words "you are." And then I'm going to use Flippin' Awesome in the cranberry ink. And this is from the More BBQ2Stamp stamp set. And then I had this little smudge on the inside of that card. You can see the little ink smudge. So I decided I have to cover that up. So I just decided to add a few of these little die cut pieces here to cover that up. And then I go ahead and add one towards the bottom. So I add the hot dog and the turkey leg down there at the bottom. And then I also had a scrap that I had from the star paper. I decided to go ahead and just add a little border there at the bottom of the inside of the card, and then just trim off that excess. So I decorated the inside of this card. You don't see me doing that often. So here's my card, Totally Rad Dad, You're Flipping Awesome. So that completes card 1. My second card will be an A2 size card, which will measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. But I take this piece of powdered sugar cardstock and I cut it down so that it measures 2 7/8 by 4 1/16. And the reason why I did that is because I'm actually going to back this up on a dotted rectangle die, and I just was trying to get it within the dots. You'll see in just a minute as we move forward with this card. So that's why the measurements are kind of a little bit more specific. So I take this powdered sugar piece, and using different ink colors, I stamp out OMG, oops, yikes, whoa, and I also put those little dots, the ellipsis, down there at the bottom next to whoa. And then on the inside of my A2 size card base, I just stamp out I forgot it's your birthday. So here I'm ready to go ahead and back this onto this cranberry rectangle that was cut out of that dotted circle or that dotted rectangle die set. So I wanted to make sure that that white cardstock was just inside of those dots. That's why I had that really specific measurement. Now, if you don't have a dotted rectangle die like I used, you can just cut your cranberry paper to 3 3/16 by 4 7/16. Again, all of these measurements will be on my blog post. So I also have that striped pattern paper. It's 4 by 5 1/4, and then another piece of cranberry cardstock, which is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then just back that onto a powdered sugar A2 size card base. And then just add some of these chipboard stars that are in the card kit, and that completes this card. So moving on to card 3. For this card, it's going to be a Father's Day card. So I have my pieces. I am using the chipboard pieces. So this grill is one of the chipboard pieces, as well as the little flames. I go ahead and glue those to my grill. So there's two on the outside are smaller flames. The one on the middle is a larger flame. So I just glue those down. And for the pattern paper, I have the Ginger Snap lattice design, and that's 3 by 4. I put that on a piece of solid cranberry cardstock that's 3 1/8 by 4 1/8. And then I have this other piece of pattern paper with the utensils and then the stakes on it. That one is 4 by 5 1/4, and I'll put that on another piece of cranberry cardstock that's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So I'm just going to lay out my little scene here. I am going to make it so that the top of the grill is open. I think I do that for all of the cards that I use the grill. Of course, you don't have to have it open all the time. You can actually just take that top of the grill and just rest it on top of the bottom part and have a closed grill. So that's really up to you. I also am going to bring in a couple of these grass pieces, and these are just the flat die cut pieces. You can also use the puffy stickers if you wanted to. There are some grass puffy stickers in the kit, so that's up to you. If you wanted to have more dimension, you can do that as well. Now this card is actually going to be the card base will be a Ginger Snap piece of cardstock, and it will be a top folding card. So if you want to make a top folding card, you're going to take your 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. You'll cut it at 4 1/4 down the 8.5 inch side, and then score at 5.5 inches. So here I'm just adding the top layer to that bottom layer. I did put that puffy sticker, Happy Father's Day, across the top, and then I will add that to my top folding card. And for the sentiment on the inside, I will be stamping out Hope Your Day is Well Done from the More BBQ2Stamp stamp set, and I'm using my Cranberry Stamps of Life ink to stamp that out. And that completes this card. And moving on to my next card, I thought it would be really cute to bring in this t-shirt folded. So I die cut the top layer out of the pool and then the bottom layer out of the midnight, and I just added some pool ink around the edges of that t-shirt. I did die cut Totally Rad in the Sunshine. I did have double-sided adhesive tape on the back of that, and notice that I'm just placing the actual die. I didn't take the letters out. I left the letters in the die and then just pressed on them a little bit to keep them straight. And then I did the same thing with the word rad. Just lined it up, pressed it down, because this is the easiest way to make sure that those letters line up perfectly straight. And as I was doing this, I said, you know, it would really be cute if I had the letters to spell dad, and I looked at the word again and I'm like, yes, I have the letters to spell dad. So I die cut the the bottom part, the word rad, I just die cut that again twice, and then I did that in the cranberry cardstock, and then just put the letters dad. There I had to actually just kind of play around with it and just make sure it's straight, just eyeball it, but I thought that turned out super cute. And then I just added a few of the chipboard stars to the front of that, and then I'm just going to put glue on this and add it to the midnight layer. So this is going to be a shaped card. So I have a piece of powdered sugar cardstock that I fold in half, and I just smooth down that fold, because what I'm doing is I'm making my card base. So I'm going to take the largest die in the set. I'm going to place the die slightly above the fold in the cardstock, and I'm going to take some washi tape and just adhere that washi tape to that die so it holds it down onto the paper, and run that through my die cut machine. And I want you to notice that if you flip this over to the back, you'll see some of that blue cardstock peeking out. So I didn't like that. So what I did is I actually took that large die again and die cut just a regular piece of white cardstock. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to layer the t-shirt onto the white cardstock and then layer it on to the actual card base. That way none of that blue will show from the back side. So here I'm just going to add some glue to the back of the actual t-shirt, add it to the white single sheet of cardstock that was cut with the t-shirt die, and then I will add glue and add that entire t-shirt layer onto the card base. So there's my completed card. And moving on to card 5, this card was cut with the rounded corner step up card die set from the Stamps of Life. I cut the card base out of the cranberry cardstock, just smoothing out all of those score lines. I also die cut the layering piece out of this yellow lattice pattern paper. So I die cut the large piece and I'm going to add that to the front of that card. I also die cut the 2 smaller pieces, which you'll see in a minute, out of the same lattice design. And that card base die set also has this grass die, which I cut out of the kiwi cardstock. I did ink up the edges with the kiwi ink and just adding some glue and adding that grass to the front of this card. Here are the 2 pieces for the inside layers on those steps. Before I add those down, I'm going to stamp out some sentiments. So I have the BBQ2Stamp stamp set, and I have What's Cookin' and Good Lookin'. The smaller layer will be in the front, and then the larger layer will be in the back. So when you read it, you'll read from front to back, and it will say What's Cookin', Good Lookin'. So I'm just adding those onto the steps. Now when I added that grass, I do want to mention that I didn't put glue all the way at the tip of the grass because I wanted to make sure I can tuck in this barbecue grill into that grass. So I try and just tuck that in here. I think I put a little bit too much glue towards the top because I wasn't able to slide it down as much as I wanted to. But I did tuck it in a little bit there, and I just added it, and then I do trim off some of this white on the top part of the grill just because it was a little bit too much, and then I add it as it's open onto the front of that card. I do trim off some of the excess white on the turkey leg just because I don't have a lot of room there. So getting rid of some of this white will allow me to make it look a little bit better without so much white showing, and I'll actually be able to see some of the lines in the bottom part of the grill. Now for the fork, I did trim away a lot of the white. I also trimmed down the center of the tongs in the fork so that I can stick the hot dog between those tongs. And then I'm just going to add that to one of these steps on the card, and then I'm also going to add another one. This time it's going to be the actual tongs. Add that to the What's Cookin' step, and that will complete this card. So there's my card, and there's just a closer look at those steps in the card. So moving on to card 6, I'm taking this Totally Rad pattern paper, and I'm just trimming the top edge of this pattern paper because the top edge there on the right hand side, the words Totally Rad are kind of cut in half. So I wanted to make sure that the strip that I get, you can see the words, and I cut it so that 2 rows of words show. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this strip at the very bottom edge of this star pattern paper. And the star pattern paper measures 4 by 5 1/4. And then I just trim off the excess. So just flip that over and just trim off the excess. And here I have some of this ribbon, which I'm just adding some adhesive tape to, just to make it sticky, and I'm going to add that as a border at the very top of the Totally Rad paper. Now you'll see as I complete these cards, and you probably have seen, that I haven't used much ribbon. This is like, I think, the only card that I use any ribbon in this kit, because most of my cards are masculine cards, if not all of them, and I just don't think tying bows and using ribbon on cards for guys is appropriate. I don't know, it's just not my thing. So I just use it here as kind of like a border strip. I don't even tie a bow or anything. So the stamp that I'm bringing in is this new set from the Stamps of Life. It's called Stamps for Guys, and I went ahead and colored this car off camera. I thought this would be super cute to add to this card. So I colored it off camera, added it here to the card, and I'm adding the puffy sticker, Hey Dude. And it says Totally Rad, so Hey Dude, Totally Rad. You can make this card whatever you want. If you wanted to make it a birthday card, just a hello card, or a Father's Day card, whatever you wanted to make it, you can. Just depends on what kind of sentiment you put on the inside. I left my inside blank, as you'll see, because I don't know what I'm going to use this card for. So I layered this onto a piece of Midnight cardstock, and the Midnight cardstock is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and then my card base is from the Twig cardstock, and it's an A2 size card base cut with the Twig cardstock. So just layer that directly on top. I will add some epoxy dots to the top of this card. And when I was coloring this car, which again I did off camera, but I will have all of the colors listed in my blog, I kind of got some red into the headlight. So I'm taking my Dandelion Yellow Nuvo drops, and I'm just putting some of those Nuvo drops over top of the headlight, just to not only give it some dimension, but to kind of cover up the ink splot that I got there on the headlight. So that completed my card, and moving on to my next card, I used the Hill border die from the Borders die set from the Stamps of Life, and die cut this grass pattern paper, just inking up the edges with some green apple ink. And I have this lattice background that is 4 by 5 1/4. I'm just kind of rearranging my scene, just kind of placing things where I want them to go. So I start out by just putting some glue here on the paper, adding that grass to the top of that lattice, and then just pressing down, turning that over, and just trimming off that extra cardstock. I did die cut the BBQ word die, and I die cut that out of the cranberry cardstock, so you see that there laying on the table. I also have a piece of chocolate cardstock that measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and this will be an A2 size card, and it's just a white card base. So here I'm just adding the BBQ up at the top. I'm using a sentiment from the BBQ2Stamp stamp set, and the sentiment is BBQ time, and I'm just taking a piece of washi tape and I'm just masking off the BBQ, inking up the word time in some chocolate ink, and then I'm going to take off the washi tape and I'm going to stamp that word time down next to the barbecue word die. So next I'm going to go ahead and add the grill. So I'll glue that down to the card front, and I'll add the top of the grill so that it's positioned open. I'm going to add some of the utensils there hanging from the sides of the grill. I'm also going to trim down the steak and the turkey leg. You'll see that just by eliminating a lot of that white, it just gives it a much better look. And I also am able to add a hot dog in there, but I wanted that turkey leg to appear right over top of the hot dog and not behind it. So I add that to the chocolate cardstock. I do add a few epoxy dots. Now actually I don't know if it was some ink. It must have been some ink. There was a little bit of ink stain on the front where those large epoxy dots are on the left. So I put those large epoxy dots there to kind of cover up whatever the stain was that was on the front of that card. Those aren't actually the position that I would have actually put those in, but I really wanted to cover up that ink spot. So that's where they ended up. So that completes that card. And moving on to my next card, I'm bringing in these guitar dies. And I die cut the guitars out of the cranberry is the shadow layer, and then I have sunshine and the pool paper, and I'm just adding those guitars to their shadow layers. I also die cut each one of those guitars, the top layering piece that actually makes the guitar design, out of the cranberry cardstock so that I can put these little pieces back in to the slots on those guitars, and I wanted the cranberry cardstock to appear there. You totally don't have to do this. You can just let the shadow layer appear behind it, but I wanted all the entire guitar to appear as one layer, and I didn't want it to have the indents in there from the missing cardstock pieces. So this star pattern paper measures 3 3/16 by 4 3/4, and I put it flush at the bottom and in the center of this stripe paper, and the stripe paper measures 4 by 5 1/4. I did use the Totally Rad word die, cut it in the cranberry, and put it at the top. And the reason why that star paper, the measurements are so exact, is because I wanted the Totally Rad to be able to fit perfectly up at the top of this striped paper, so there wasn't any excess. I didn't have to trim anything off, so it just worked out perfectly. So the Totally Rad, when I put that on there, it's actually flush with the top edge of the actual stripe paper and then the top edge of that star paper. So hopefully that makes sense. And then I go ahead and add these guitars in a crisscross fashion here at the top of this card layer. And then I also die cut Totally Rad out of white cardstock and just pieced in the letters for Totally Rad. You can just see it much better than having that striped pattern paper in the background. Okay, so I add this to a piece of pool cardstock. It measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And this is going to be an A2 size card, so that entire layer will go on an A2 size white card base. And I will add some epoxy dots to the front of this card, and that will complete this card. So for card 9, I'm going to make this a flip it card. I am using the square flip it die set from the Stamps of Life. I die cut the card base out of the twig cardstock, and I die cut the layering pieces out of that polka dot paper, and I'm just inking up the edges with some sunshine ink. Now I do need to mention that I have reached into my cardstock stash to use some cardstock in this card kit. So not all the cardstock that I'm using is just from the card kit, because for example, when I had to make that slimline card at the very beginning, it did take up a lot of cardstock. Between the pool and the chocolate cardstock that was in the kit, those were entire, layers there on a slimline card base. So I did have to dig into my stash for a lot of cards in this set, just because of the type of cards that I have made. This twig cardstock included, because cutting a card base does take up a lot of cardstock. So this card was actually not going in this direction when I first was brainstorming it. I was actually thinking of it as more of a birthday card. I was going to include some of the sentiments on the square in the middle from the stamp set. I was going to do like an oops, I forgot it was your birthday. I don't even know. It was just going to be something with the stamp set, but it totally went in a different direction, and I ended up saying, you know what, I have a lot of these die cut pieces just sitting around. I haven't used a lot of them, so let me just go ahead and add some to the front of this flip it card. And technically, if you don't want to waste your die cut pieces, there is a pattern paper in this paper pad that includes a piece that has all of these utensils and then the meat on that pattern paper. But I chose to go ahead and just add some of those die cut pieces to the polka dots. I just think it livens up the pattern paper a little bit. So here for the center piece, of the square. I did use some of the chipboard pieces. You can see I put the flame in the letter Q. I also put some of the grass pieces in the word BBQ. And for the back side, I die cut another square and just stamped out "Hope your day is well done." This was a very simple card. I thought about adding a ribbon, but I said, you know what, I'm not adding a ribbon. Just as I mentioned earlier, I wanted to keep all my cards more masculine in theme, and I didn't want any ribbons on my card. So this completes card 9, and then moving on to my last and final card, card 10. So this card will be an A2 size card in the landscape position, and I die cut this grass pattern paper out of another hill border, and I am going to add this to the polka dot paper. Polka dot paper measures 5 1/4 by 4, and I'm just going to add that there to the bottom, and I'm just going to trim off the excess, and that will be added to a piece of sunshine cardstock that measures 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. I will be using the blue chipboard barbecue grill, and I also die cut the Totally Rad word die, the shadow out of the midnight cardstock, and the top layering piece out of the sunshine. So I'm going to layer those two pieces together. I like how the blue shows nicely through that yellow paper. And I'm also going to be bringing in some more elements. I have a piece of the chipboard flame. I'm just going to add one flame to the grill and then add glue to the back of the chipboard grill and add that to the card. I will add the top of the grill so that it appears open. I also want you to notice that the pieces, the tongs and the hot dog, I did trim away a lot of the white on those, and notice that I also cut the tongs down the middle of the tongs so that I can stick that hot dog inside, and I'm just adding glue just to keep those pieces together. I am going to bring in one of the oven mitts, so I add the hot dog with the tong and the oven mitt to the front of the card, and then I'll add the Totally Rad word die cut to the front of that card layer. I'm going to use an A2 size card base in white, and I'm just going to stamp out "Whoa" in the midnight color, and then in the cranberry ink I'm going to stamp out "It's your birthday." And then I'm going to add a piece of midnight cardstock to the front of that A2 size card base. That midnight cardstock is 5 1/2 by 4 1/4, same exact size as the A2 size card base. And then I will add the entire card layer on top of that. So that completes my card. And once again, here are all of the 10 cards I created with the Stamps of Life May 2021 card kit. So please leave me a comment down below and let me know which card is your favorite. I always love to hear your comments. And again, if you like tutorials like this, please click that subscribe button and be sure you turn on your bell notifications so that you'll be notified every time I release a new video. And as always, if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And thanks so much for watching, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.